Well, I realize there's a lot more important boxing news out there right now, and this will probably come off as, to many, a fluff story. But I got to really bring this out because not many people are talking about it. It's something that I heard about, and I actually went on the website and did read an article that Doug Fisher wrote about it. And this is in regards to Canelo Alvarez. As everyone knows, the WBC took Canelo Alvarez out of their rankings for his refusal to enter into their clean boxing program. But the Ring Ratings Committee, who have Canelo Alvarez as their middleweight champion, tried to strip him of that title. And Dougie Fisher, who's the chairman of that committee, was all on board of stripping Canelo Alvarez of that title, because it is in the rules that if a boxer tests positive for PEDs, then he will be stripped of his title, which Canelo Alvarez did test positive. The 2 positive tests, as everyone knows. And they did try to strip him of his title, but they were overruled by Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya. And they were not allowed to strip Canelo Alvarez of their title. Now, the Ring magazine's been out since 1927. It's been called the Bible of boxing. It was looked upon as the gold standard at one point. And I remember growing up, before there was even the internet, and I would buy the Ring magazine. I would buy Boxing Monthly. But when I opened up that Ring magazine and I turned to those ratings pages and I looked at who they had as the champion, for the most part, I respected those ratings and I respected the person they had listed as the champion. Because back in the day, the Ring magazine had a lot more credibility than it does now. Ever since in 2007, since Golden Boy Promotions has purchased the magazine and the website, I think they've gone downhill at a rapid pace. And when I see someone who they have listed in their rankings or look at their champions, I don't really hold them in high regard. It's so ironic too, because so many people in the press, and particularly the Ring TV writing staff, they're quick to point out how bad boxing is in enforcing its rules, and how I don't want to use the word crooked, but how there's just a lot of controversy and inconsistencies in the way boxing is run. Let's just put it that way, to put it mildly. And the press is supposed to be unbiased. And we all know now that boxing is so tribal now that it's impossible to even look at the press as being biased. I mean, I have certain sources that I'll trust. I mean, you can say what you want about Dan Raphael, but he does do a good job at getting the news. Boxing Scene's really good at what they do. But most of the other websites out there, they're pom-pom holders for their own favorite fighters. We all know that. So obviously, there's a huge conflict of interest with the Ring because of a promotional company like Golden Boy, who purchased them back in 2007, now owning them. And there's always going to be that thought of, yeah, they're gonna favor Golden Boy fighters. And it seems like this was the case in this incident. So, it's just a bad look for the sport when you take something like the Ring that was, as I said, the gold standard. They were the magazine. They were the source for boxing, and they were very well respected. I remember when Steve Farhood used to be the editor. He used to write excellent stories too. The magazine used to be awesome, and I do like Dougie Fisher. Don't get me wrong, and I think he tried to do the right thing. Don't get me wrong. I respect Doug Fisher a lot. I think he tried to do the right thing, but again, he has to put food on the table too. I mean, he has to listen to his boss, just like we have to listen to our boss at work. And we may not agree with them, and I'm sure, and I know that Dougie doesn't agree with this decision, and I think he probably feels bad for it. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But at the end of the day, this just shows the lack of credibility from Golden Boy, and with all the controversy surrounding Canelo Alvarez, and they just keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it, and day by day, they're losing more and more credibility by the moment. So this may not mean much. There was a time when it did mean a lot more, when the Ring magazine was looked upon as credible, and because of most people's opinions of it now, since Golden Boy has taken over, probably not looked upon in high regard as a source for boxing anymore. I know people's first stop is usually Boxing Scene or ESPN, or maybe even Yahoo, and they're not even thinking about going to Ring anymore. But it's just a shame that we have to deal with a lot of the inconsistencies with the sanctioning bodies, a lot of the head-scratching moves from the commissions, a lot of crazy moves that the promoters do. We expect that from the promoters, but we do expect some sense of decency and some sense of morality, if you will, from the journalists, specifically someone like the Ring magazine and the Ring website that has such a long history with the sport, and that used to be so very well respected. So it's a shame that it's come to this, that there's just no honor in the sport, even with the press now, and it's so disgusting what has happened to the Ring, which used to be a great magazine and used to be a great website. And it's a shame too, because if you decide to write for the Ring or you decide to do any type of work for the Ring, that's your choice. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be the perception out there that you're working for a promoter and you're going to be pushing an agenda for that promoter in support of that promoter's fighters. So whether or not you agree with that, or you believe that, or even if you think it's true, there's still a conflict of interest there. So just keep that in mind. When you get that check from Ring TV, or when you get that check from Oscar De La Hoya, whatever the check says on it, I don't know what it says on it. I'm sure it's linked to Golden Boy in some capacity. But just remember that if you're out there promoting fairness in the sport, consistency in the rules, within the sport, you're working for an entity that is not upholding those same standards. So none of us are perfect. We all contradict ourselves at times. But Oscar De La Hoya is the epitome of contradiction. He is just a walking. He's just a. Oh my God! I words can't describe how inconsistent, and every other word out of this guy's mouth is just a lie and a contradiction. I know promoters are supposed to bullshit. I know they're supposed to sell their product, but Oscar De La Hoya he's just out of control at this point with the things he's coming out with now. Because I remember when he first started out in the sport, oh, I'm a fighter. I'm going to be for the fighters. I'm about doing what's best for boxing, the best fighting, the best this and that. And he sold us a bill of goods, man, because to me, I think he's the worst of them all now when it comes to hypocrisy and bullshit and all of that, all of that stuff that we hate about the sport of boxing. I think he's definitely one of the guys pushing that type of agenda now. I think that he's just full of shit, and I think the more he opens his mouth, the deeper hole he digs himself. And I just think that this whole Canelo situation has just made it even worse for him. Regardless of all the other demons he has outside of the sport of boxing. So let me know what you guys think. Am I wrong here? Do you guys agree with me? Or do you even care? At this point, do you even care what the Ring does, or what Oscar De La Hoya does? Does it even matter anymore? It's just the way it is, moving forward in the sport of boxing, and this is what we have to look forward to. I know, WBC has come out with the clean boxing program, but even, they did drop Canelo out of the rankings, but you have a guy who's the chairman of the WBC who's claiming Canelo's innocence, even before the investigation starts. So is this just what we have to look forward to now, man? We just have to accept this? Is this just the necessary evil of the sport, and then we just have to turn a blind eye to it and just accept it? I don't know. But at least we should expect more from the press. The press is supposed to kind of represent us to some degree. They're supposed to be our mouthpiece. And they're supposed to be the true voice of the people when it comes to the sport of boxing. And if this is what we have over at ringtv.com, then the future looks bleak for us, man. But let me know what you guys think. That's all I got for now. Until next time, Beavers out. Talk to y'all soon. Peace. Have a great day.